Hello everyone and welcome to the video. Today I'd like to show you a really cool Infernoble Knight deck that can skip your opponent's main phase 1 consistently, as well as set up the same good old combo board, which is absolutely incredible. The way we're doing this is by using the Cursed Bamboo Sword and the Burning Bamboo Sword combo, and we need two things in order to set up that main phase 1 skip, using the Isolde to send to the graveyard the Cursed, which allows us to search the Burning one, and then we use the Renown to bring back the Cursed Bamboo Sword, and we set up basically the skip. As you can see, this is a very consistent way to do it, and if you set up that combo during turn 1, chances are you're gonna skip your opponent's battle phase as well, because their board is empty anyways. To me that sounds insane, but let's go over the ratios and explain everything. First of all, we have Placer of Renown, which I'm gonna talk about in a little bit. We also play the Fireflint Lady, the Ricardetto with the Ogier, Oliver, the Magias, and the Turpin with the Red Layer and also the Gearfried. We also have the one Rota, which is a nice consistency for the deck, the Placer of the Heritage, of course, the two copies of Durandal with one Owl Mace, and the Placer of Museum. Because of Museum, we're playing a second copy of Durandal, and people have forgotten that this is just pure consistency boost, and I do like playing the most copies of them I can. And in the extra deck for the Infernoble Knight cards, we have of course the Rowan with the Angelica, the Emperor Charles with the double Emperor Charles the Great, and two copies of Isolde, which is just standard. Now the reason why I'm playing Placer of Renown is because we want to get access to it as much as possible in order to return to the hand the Cursed Bamboo Sword. But there's also one more thing we gotta note. With Isolde, the better target to go for is actually Ogier, because you want to set up the Turpin in the graveyard. So oftentimes you really need Renown, however you can get access to it with Isolde, so you gotta find other ways to do it. That is why I wanted to build a deck that can consistently get access to it, and we have with the Placer of Renown the Diabell Star, the Wanted, the original simple spells, the Heritage, the 1-for-1, the Rota with the Museum, as well as Durandal. More than 15 copies of Renown in the deck, which is incredible. For the other equip spells, we have of course the one Living Fossil and the one Gearblade and Angelica's Ring, all of which are useful in their respective scenarios, but we also gotta know the fact that Burning Bamboo Sword is not an equip spell, which means we gotta get access to it with the Cursed Bamboo Sword's effect only. For the non-engine, we have the Placer of Sang Engine with the one Golem and the one Wedge Tempo, of course, which goes typically into Zombie Vampire, which can be pretty nice to get an additional extender or mill something. Or another cool thing you can do is just use the level 8 body plus a Renown, for example, to go for level 9, which can be very useful as well at times. I also forgot to mention that the starter is the Connector, of course, with the Aqua Dolphin. You can also play Sublimation Knight, however I feel like Connector is a little bit better because it's a level 4 body and we can go into level 5 easier. And for the rest of the deck, we just play the Maxi, Ash, Full Walls, Imperm, Code Buy, and Crossout. Now you could play more hand traps and go up to 60 cards, but I don't think you need to do it. I really value consistency in this deck, and I initially played 51 cards, but I went up to 55 because I wanted to include the Millennium Engine. But I really don't want to include like an extra 5 hand traps and just nerf the consistency. I don't like the idea of it. For the extra deck, we have the Doom Dragon, of course, for the Millennium Engine, all of the nice Infernoble Knight cards here for the Synchros, and the one Baron, of course. We also play the one Dempsey, which can be a nice way to get access to a fire monster. You can get any level 4 or lower fire monster, which is very flexible. The Zombie Vampire, of course, as we said, for the Millennium Engine. We also have the Ferocious Flame Swordsman with the Promethean Princess, which is a very nice card for this deck, and the Wannapalooza and SP, which are just standard and good staples in general. I think this deck's very fun and very strong, so let me show you how the combos work. Alright, so the way we're gonna do this is I'm gonna show you what literally 2 warrior monsters into Isolde can do for this deck, and it's absolutely amazing. We're gonna start with Connector, of course, summon the Dolphin. Now you can use Dolphin, but there's no point doing that against the bot. We're just gonna go for Isolde here, and that's all you need to set up the full combo, right? It's gonna be a little less of a powerful version of the combo, simply because we don't have extenders, but it's still very nice. Now we're gonna get access to something like a Red Layer, for example, as a follow-up. Now we're gonna be activating the Isolde, going for 4 cards, and specifically going for the Cursed Bamboo Sword, the Living Fossil, the Gearblade, and the Angelica's Ring. Living Fossil is not necessary to go for, but it's still a decent card to get to the graveyard, so we're just gonna do that. And now we're gonna summon the Ogier to the field. Now we can go Chainlink 1 Ogier, Chainlink 2 Cursed Bamboo Sword, and Chainlink 3 the Gearblade, basically protecting the searches. They cannot negate our way to get access to the main phase 1 skip, you know. We're gonna search the Burning Bamboo Sword, retrieve the Gearblade, and also send to the graveyard the Turpin. And now, of course, we're gonna go Gearblade, basically get access to the Turpin this way, because we don't have any other equip spell we can utilize. And this is gonna give us a 2 level 4 bodies to go for Dempsey. Dempsey is very good in that particular scenario because we get to search the Renown, which is very important. Alright, now that we have Renown, we can basically space summon it to the field, which is gonna be very, very strong. So we're gonna use it to retrieve back the Cursed Bamboo Sword. Make sure to do that because we need it for the Burning Bamboo Sword. And now we're gonna go into the Promethean Princess, of course, because we want to get back a level 4 monster, so we can basically synchro summon into a level 5 Angelica, of course. So we're gonna use it, and we're gonna summon back any of the 2 monsters. Doesn't really make a difference. Now we're gonna go into the Angelica, of course, which is gonna give us the Museum, and that can continue extending our combos. And this is also the way you can kind of change the avenues depending on what you want to do. For example, you can go Museum now, get a search for either Owl Mace or Durandal. Durandal Build-out is good to get you an additional extender. However, Almaze can give you a little bit more comboing, so I'm gonna go for Almaze just to show you what you can do with it. And now we're gonna be activating the effect of Turpin here and equipping it onto the Angelica in order to activate Angelica and basically tag out into the Rowan, of course. And we can also send to the graveyard a monster, and I'm gonna go for Gearfried, and I'm gonna show you why in a little bit. So we're gonna be summoning the Rowan here, which is very nice. And now this effect fizzles, but it's absolutely okay. And we're gonna go all gear. We're gonna equip it onto the Rowan. And here we're gonna give up on the second Charos because there's no point getting access to a second one here. It's just too much resources that we don't need to commit to that. We're better off just summoning one of it and setting up other interruptions as well. And also one thing to note, if you do have Promethean Princess on the field this way, it only has one link zone pointing to it, so you can technically summon only one Charos, which can be annoying sometimes. Now we are also gonna activate the Almaze and equipping it onto the Charos. This will give us the ability to go for the Emperor Charos the Great, and we're straight up gonna do that because this way we can use the effect of the Almaze, of course, in the graveyard and basically retrieve a warrior monster, which is very, very nice. And we can use it to get access to Gearfried, of course. We basically have another form of interruption using that, which is phenomenal, of course. We're gonna get back the Charos equipped to it, and of course we are gonna be summoning the Gearfried by banishing an equip spell, and I'm gonna be getting rid of something like Gearblade because we don't necessarily need it, of course. And now from here you have Captain Rowan available to activate in the graveyard, but we're not gonna do it. We're instead gonna activate just the Burning Bamboo Sword. We're gonna also go for the Cursed Bamboo Sword, equipping it to whatever we want, but we're just gonna target the Charos because we're gonna stack a bunch of equip spells onto him, of course. And this basically enables the Burning Bamboo Sword, which can now skip our opponent's main phase 1. That's how you do it. It's really incredible. And this is all we need. We're just gonna pass turn with that, and as you can see, we're gonna get back the Angelica, of course, and now we can also use the effect of the Emperor Charos the Great here, and we can equip onto it a bunch of cards. We're gonna go for the Angelica's Ring, and we're also gonna go with a monster from the deck. So we can go for Oliver, for example, or we can also go for the Magias, depending on what we need. I'm just gonna go Oliver. It doesn't really make a difference. And yeah, we're just gonna pass turn with that. We have Gearfried, we have the Charos, and they have no main phase, and of course no battle phase because technically they lose the battle phase because they don't have anything on the field to use. So they only have a main phase too, which is very nice, and we still have access to plenty of interruptions to shut down our opponent with literally one card. The only problem is Isolde is gonna be a very annoying choke point, which I don't like. Of course, if they negate the Isolde and you don't have any more extenders, you kind of just lose the game on the spot, but it is what it is, dude. This is the problem with Infernoble Knight usually. Isolde is always gonna be a choke point. You can't do anything about it. Now for the second combo, guys, I would like to show you what you can do when you have access to Isolde, plus a way to get access to the Renault or Renault himself, which can slightly improve the combos. So we're gonna go with the new space connector here, normal summon. That will grab us, of course, the Dolphin. Of course, you can use the effect of Dolphin, but we don't need to do that. We're gonna link off into Isolde again, activate the effect, get a search for something. We're gonna grab a red layer. Now the cool thing is, when you have access to the Renault, even if the Isolde gets negated and we don't have access to additional plays, we can still get extenders to work with, which is nice. Now we're gonna go for 4 cards, basically the same exact cards, because we just need a combo. This is the main way to do it, and we're gonna go all gear, milling again the Turpin. The only scenario in which you go for something else is if you basically have all gear in the opening hand and you already have Turpin in the graveyard. Alright, everything is set up here. Now we're gonna use again the Gear Blade, equipping it onto whatever, so we can activate the Turpin, special summoning it back to the field. And now, instead of going for the usual plays that we initially showed, I'm gonna show you what you can do with something else. We're gonna send to the graveyard the Gear Blade, special summoning the Diabel Star now for free, which is nice. And now we're gonna be using it to go for the original Sinful Spoils, of course. Here, by the way, you can use the original Sinful Spoils on it, or if you have any other targets, you can actually go for earlier Palooza. That could also be possible, but we're now just gonna use the original Sinful Spoils on the Diabel Star and summon to the field the Renault. And now we're gonna be activating the Renault to basically get back the Cursed Bamboo Sword, which is standard, it's normal. And now we're gonna be using 2 other monsters to summon again the Battling Boxer, because currently the Renault is actually not a tuner, so we do need to get access to a tuner. And the way we're gonna do this is by going for the Oliver here, which can be a pretty nice way to do it, of course. Now we're gonna activate Oliver, send to the graveyard the red layer which we just searched, and then we'll special summon it as a level 1 tuner. And now here we're gonna be using 2 other monsters to link off into the Promethean Princess. This way we can bring back a level 4 again to the field, which is very, very valuable for us. So we're gonna get back this thing. And now we're gonna be using 2 other monsters to go for the Angelica. Now keep in mind, the Bellstar summoning Renault is slightly different than any other way to get access to Renault, because you don't have it in the opening hand to actually summon it. This way it doesn't actually become a tuner. So now we're gonna be activating the effect of the Turpin, equipping it onto the Angelica, so we can go, of course, for the Captain Rowan here, and the effect will fizzle, but that's completely fine, of course. So with the mill effect here, we have a bunch of options what we can go for. We can also go for, by the way, Ricardetto if you want to get additional extenders. So that's a nice opportunity there. here, but I'm gonna go for Gearfried now because we can retrieve it again. So I'm gonna be summoning on the field the Captain Rowan, of course, and now this will fizzle, but we can also activate the museum. Now we're going to be activating the museum, grabbing again the our mace, and here we're going to be going for the all gear, equip it onto whatever, doesn't really matter. Now we're going to use the museum, special summoning it to the field because we just have to do it. And now we summon the Emperor Charles the Great numero 1. And yeah, we don't go for the double Charles in that particular scenario again, because of the Bell Star, but it is actually not that big of a deal. It is fine in my opinion. Now we're gonna activate the Mace and we're gonna equip it onto the Renault here, and we're gonna be using 2 of our monsters to go for the Ferocious Flame Swordsman so we can link up the Promethean Princess, and that is gonna be pretty nice. Now we're gonna use the Mace, getting back to the hand, of course, the Gearfried, and that will give us basically Gearfried with the Emperor Charles and also with the you know, Flame Swordsman, which can be a decent card, but we primarily use it to link up the Promethean. And we can of course equip a little bit of extra protection onto the Emperor Charles, and we still get the Bamboo Sword combo. Now, can we improve this combo? Yes, we can go for different avenues depending on what we have, but with the Bell Star, this is basically the safest and simplest way to do it, and I think it's still really good, right? It's still great. And now here, if you want to be a little extra spicy, we can also use the Cursed Bamboo Sword and retrieve to the hand the Burning Bamboo Sword because we already used it, keeping it in the hand. And now during the end phase, we get back the Angelica, and we can also use the Charos. So we still get the Angelica ring, but we also get access to an additional one in the face of, let's say, maybe Magias, and that's it. We're just gonna pass turn here and basically again skip. And the cool thing is, by the way, you can get back the Cursed Bamboo Sword whenever you'd like with Renault, and you can repeat this whole process, especially if you use the effect of it and retrieve to the hand the Burning Bamboo Sword, because this way your opponent can get rid of it, right? And of course, whenever we want to activate something, we just go with the Promethean Princess and we target anything. We're just gonna go for like a Flame Swordsman, pop something else. And the cool thing is, the moment we use Gearfried, sending an equip spell to the graveyard, we also get a free space to activate another spell or trap card. This way we can use the Rowan's effect and equip it onto the Charos and just get an additional pop. And I think most of the time, if you set up this play, there's no way your opponent will break the field and win the game. But anyways, let's move on to the final combo. So for this combo, I would like to show you what you can do when you have access to Isolde and again access to Renault, but with specifically Museum, because Museum makes it so that the field is going to be a little bit better during the end of the turn. We're going to be using the museum to get a search for the Durandal, which is going to be the first equip spell to search with the museum. Now we're going to activate Durandal, equipping it onto anything. This way we can also use the effect of the, of course, Turpin, special summoning it back to the field. And now we can activate Durandal, basically getting us access to the Renault. And here we can special summon it as a tuner, which is very nice. This way we can get access to also the effect and retrieve back the Cursed Bamboo Sword, which is what we need for the main phase skip, of course. And now we're gonna go into the Angelica once again, but here it's gonna be the most ideal combo possible, and I'm gonna be setting up a lot better stuff here. So now I'm gonna be going for the second copy of Museum, which is gonna give us additional extenders, of course. And now we're gonna go all gear, target the Angelica. We're also gonna chain Angelica and go into the Rowan. You can mill to the graveyard Gearfried again. However, I'm gonna show you what you can do if you mill Oliver to the graveyard. That can be an additional end board piece. Now, of course, we're gonna go into Charles straight up by using the Turpin and the Rowan, and we're gonna be equipping the Rowan onto it. This way we can basically go for the Emperor Charles the Great. And now the cool thing is, because we have Isolde on the field, we have 2 free zones to link someone into, unlike the Promethean Princess version, which means we can effectively summon double Charles again. So now we're gonna be activating the museum by summoning the Charles to the field, of course. And we can already go for the second Charles, but we are going to be activating the museum here again. This way, we're going to get access to our mace and we can retrieve a card from the graveyard, of course, which will be the Oliver that we initially sent to the graveyard because we specifically want to target that. And this will trigger the our mace as well as the other effect of the Emperor Charles to get back Charles as an equip spell. And let's target the Oliver to bring it back to the hand. And in order to use Oliver, we do need a discard. So of course, the Isolde searching red layer will actually come in handy here. And let's just equip it again. Now we're going to be going for the museum here. We're going to be special summoning the Charos once again, of course. And now for the final move, it's gonna be Oliver with the red layer to the graveyard, special summoning the Oliver. Now we're gonna go and basically summon Baron if you'd like, or if you want to build an even better board, I would suggest you go for a Promethean Princess by linking up the Charos and also the Isolde, which is gonna be a very nice thing to do. And here, if you have access to another extender, you don't need to do what I'm about to do, but in that case we don't. So we're just gonna go for Charos once again. and we're gonna be summoning now the Baron. And because we don't have an additional body, we will need to pop the Promethean Princess ourselves. So the way we're gonna do this is by activating the Burning Bamboo Sword and the Cursed Bamboo Sword, equipping it onto the Renault, and now we're gonna be able to, of course, activate the Burning Bamboo Sword, and we can also change the effect of the Renault to pop our own Promethean Princess. It's still fine, to be honest, it doesn't really matter that much, and now we again skip the main phase 1, which is very nice, and here we're gonna be summoning the Baron to the field, which is gonna be very strong. And also you can use the effect of the Cursed Bamboo Sword, retrieving back to the hand the Burning Bamboo Sword, keeping it in the hand available so your opponent cannot pop it and send it to the graveyard. This way you can consistently skip your opponent's main phase 1 multiple times, because we can just use it and out and bring back the Cursed Bamboo Sword from the graveyard and just pop it ourselves if we need to do that as well. And if we pair that with Magnus' effect that can shuffle a bunch of Fire Warrior monsters, we can technically use all of our Renauts and then get them all back, and you can continue skipping and skipping and skipping. And of course we're just gonna equip onto Charos a bunch of cards like Oliver, the Angelica's Ring, the Magius, whatever, and we just have access to double Charos with also the Baron, and we also have the Angelica's Ring, and we have consistent way to repeat the main phase 1 skip, which technically also skips the battle phase of the first turn your opponent has, because they can't do anything there. I know this seems absolutely ridiculous, but it's super easy and very much possible. So finally, I would like to give you guys my honest opinion and give you the pros and cons of playing this deck. And yes, there are some issues that the deck has. First of all, you gotta play more than 40 cards for sure, because you do have a bunch of Guardians that you don't want to draw in your opening hand. However, that's also a downside, because the consistency also gets hurt because of that. That is why I'm so obsessed about consistency, and I really don't want to go above like 51 or 55 cards. I feel like this is one of the biggest problems that the deck has. And the other issue, of course, is the fact that Isolde is a pretty annoying choke point, and if your opponent has more than 2 brain cells, he's gonna negate the second effect and allow the first effect to go through, because no one cares about the first effect. And if that happens, well, you just gotta hope that you have enough extenders to still build a decent board. But outside of these 2 issues, I feel like the deck is still very strong, very fun to play, and it's one of my personal favorites. Infernoble Knights are a very cool archetype in general. If there's another idea that you have that I missed mentioning, let me know in the comments below as well. And if you enjoyed the video, you know what to do, of course, and check out more Must To Do content in the channel if you'd like, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great day.